When embarking on a digital transformation, organizations often face a common set of recurring pain points along the way. So what I want to talk about today are what are those pain points and how can you avoid them as part of your digital transformation. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world with their digital transformation journeys. And I recently posted a video on my YouTube channel that talks about the top 10 business benefits of digital transformation. So I've covered this topic before, but what I want to talk about today is a little bit different. We're going to talk today about what the organizational pain points are that organizations often face when they're going through the digital transformations. So it's going a layer deeper than what some of the expected business benefits and improvements might be, but rather what are those organizational headwinds and pain points that organizations experience as they're going through their transformations. And these are the things that you should be aware of, not only in terms of understanding some of the difficulties and challenges and pitfalls of digital transformation, but also in terms of understanding what your change management strategy and tactics might be to help address some of those pain points along the way. When organizations are looking to automate their business operations as part of a digital transformation, they often face this phenomena where they've relied on tribal knowledge due to lack of automation. And what I mean by that is employees within the organization have a lot of stuff rattling around in their heads. There's a lot of knowledge that they themselves have individually that's not documented or captured anywhere centrally, and your organization and your operations become dependent on that tribal knowledge. So one of the biggest obstacles in organizational change pain points that you'll commonly face is the fact that you have this tribal knowledge. And the reason it's a pain point is for two reasons. One is because it creates headwinds. It creates difficulty in going through the transformation because now you're relying on people and extracting that knowledge and getting it out of their heads because it's not documented anywhere. So that becomes something that can add to the duration of your project. And the second reason tribal knowledge is such a pain point is because it creates resistance to change. If you're an employee who we rely on that tribal knowledge and you take pride in having that tribal knowledge and being one of the only people, if not the only person within the organization with that tribal knowledge, you're inherently going to resist any efforts to mitigate or to neutralize that benefit or the advantage you bring to the organization. So it does on the surface create some sorts of organizational change management issues that need to be addressed as part of a digital transformation. So just be aware of the fact that tribal knowledge is something that can be an organizational pain point that needs to be addressed along the way. One of the other pain points that organizations are trying to face, oftentimes as part of their digital transformation, are inefficient business processes. These are things that are highly manual, redundant, require rework or double entry of data, and just inefficiencies in the overall business processes. And so this is something that can be difficult to change because even though it may be painful, even though it may be inefficient, it's the way things are, and a lot of times it's often baked deep within the organization and the operational model that you're working from. So that makes change difficult, the fact that you're trying to automate some of these business processes. And similar to the last point about the tribal knowledge, it also creates a culture of heroics when you have these inefficient processes because we have broken processes, we have broken systems, and if I'm an employee, I'm here to fix it. I can help fix that and I can work through and power through those inefficiencies and be successful despite the fact that I have inefficient processes supporting me. And that pride and those heroics that go along with that can create resistance to change. It can make change a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. So one of the best antidotes to this is to make sure that as part of your digital transformation, you clearly define what your future state business processes are going to be and involve those people that are involved in the business processes today, involve them in the definition of what those future processes might be. Typically, when you have inefficient business processes, you also have siloed business processes. In other words, you have different parts of the organization that are operating in their own silos, operating in their own world, without an understanding or regard for what's happening throughout the rest of the organization. And part of this is just part of growth, it's part of larger organizations, it's part of broken or lack of integrated systems. And so it's not that anyone intended for that to be the case, but that often is the case as organizations grow and mature. But digital transformation enables integration of business processes. It enables a way to collaborate and have better visibility into the entire organization. And so we need to define our business processes in a way that enable that integration and that innovation among different parts of the organization and the operations. And we also need to make sure that people understand what those new roles and responsibilities might be. these are great ways to overcome some of those challenges that come along with the lack of innovation, the lack of integration of business processes, and the lack of collaboration among the organization. Another common pain point that organizations face is dirty data. They have data that's either dirty, it needs to be cleansed, it doesn't exist, it's located in multiple locations, or some combination of all the above. And the reason this is a pain point organizationally is because now we're forced to uncover and to capture integrated data and clean data in a way that allows us to have a more successful digital transformation. And when you think about digital transformation, it's only as good as the data you put into that technology. So you're deploying new technologies that can support better predictive analytics and machine learning, artificial intelligence and business intelligence, all that stuff. But that's only going to work if you have good data and you capture the data that you need to and bring it over into the new systems. Most organizations, though, grew up in a world or in a space where they didn't have clean data, and therefore they need to clean it up, they need to integrate it, they need to go to all the different sources of data and bring it all together to support the new digital transformation. And this is something that can create pretty significant organizational headwinds as well as implementation headwinds, more from a project management perspective as well. Another organizational challenge that companies face during digital transformation is this concept of technical debt. And if you've never heard that term, or if you're not familiar with it, what it essentially means is organizations that are behind in their technology investments. They haven't invested in technologies over years or decades, and now they're playing catch up, and now they're repaying that debt, if you will, to get caught up and to get brought into the modern age of technology. And so the fact that you're repaying this technical debt and you're making this big leap from where you were in your legacy environment to where you're headed in the future, that's a big organizational change and an organizational cultural shift, and it can create pain along the way, not because it's not good for the organization or not because people don't realize how technology can help enable the business longer term, but because it's a big change for people, and that alone is enough to create resistance to change, and it's enough to make change management more difficult than it typically would be. So technical debt is another pain point to be aware of as you go through your digital transformation. Now, the final pain point that I'll mention as it relates to digital transformation and the organizational dynamics is the fact that now you're trying to create a more mature business process and operating model. Most organizations have an immature business process model. Many of them don't have business processes well defined or documented, or if they do, it's at a very high level and not in any meaningful detail. Or if they have documented business processes, they're inefficient business processes. They're broken, they're going to improve, or they should improve. So that process maturity or lack thereof can create challenges from an organizational perspective, because again, if your processes aren't mature today, you're trying to not only implement new technology, but you're trying to make those processes more mature so that you can effectively implement technology. So that process maturity is something to be aware of, and the bigger the leap you're making between your current processes and your future state processes, the longer it's going to take you to deploy technology. So it may, in theory, only take you, say, 12 months to deploy new technologies for your organization, but when you throw in the factor or the variable of having immature business processes, that may extend your timeline to 18 or 24 months simply because you're embarking on a bigger change, and that's going to take you more time, and that time is going to take you longer than the technology takes to deploy itself. So this is something to be aware of as you deploy technology as well in terms of organizational pain points. So I hope this has given you some of the things to think about as you think about what some of those organizational pain points from a change management perspective may be on the horizon for you. I've also included some resources below that will help you in your change and transformation journey. There's two in particular I'll point out, and you can find links to these below in the description of this video. First is our Guide to Organizational Change Management. That's something that's very important if you're a change practitioner or if you're trying to understand the people side of change and some of the nuances and things to think about. The second thing I'll point out is we also publish an annual digital transformation report that provides best practices for digital transformations. It provides independent software reviews and rankings, as well as other tips to help your digital transformation be more successful. So these are two particular references that I would check out below, as well as other videos and downloads I've included links to in the description field below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day.